Okay, I'm going to talk to you this morning just to give you, I suppose, a sense of our lean journey over the last 3 or 4 years and how data has played a particular important role in that. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some interesting facts about Dawn Farm Foods, and I'm using data to do it as opposed to talking about it, just to change it a little bit. Why we engaged on our lean journey and on our business transformation program, and what we found as we've moved along through that, and some of the challenges and I suppose a lot of the success that we've gained from that. So myself, I started about 12 years ago in Dawn. I came into the finance function. I became head of finance and IT for Ireland and the UK. As part of this process, I asked to head it up 4 years ago when we started our journey, and thankfully I was successful, albeit my grey hairs are accelerating at a rate that I've never seen before, but I think that's just part of project management and trying to manage your way through that. So some interesting facts about Dawn. On an annual basis, we produce enough ham to cover the Aviva Stadium 5,000 times. So it's a lot of ham. Cooked chicken, equivalent to the weight of 4,000 E-Class Mercedes. And pepperoni and salami to circle the world 4 times. So that's a lot of product. It's quite a challenge. So from a customer point of view, the top 3 pizza brands in the world use our products, and the largest sandwich food chain, the largest sandwich chain uses our product and distributes to over 30 countries. Most of our product goes to the UK and into Europe, and some of it into the Middle East. As you can see in the top right-hand corner, we're actually celebrating our 30th year this year, which is no mean achievement. Our CEO uses this slide quite a bit when he's doing his presentations, just to give people a sense of where he started from. I think that slide he used as a pitch to a retail customer at the time. He tells us he won the business, but anyway, we have to believe him. What's happened there? Right. So this is our I suppose our facility in Naas. It's plant 1. It's one of 3 plants. 2 of them are based in Naas, just outside Dublin, and the 3rd plant is about an hour down the road in Northampton, which is a cooked bacon facility. We also have our own dedicated distribution and logistics business. I suppose just it's really to give you a sense of the scale of the organisation and a sense of the challenge that I and the team faced in trying to transform a 25, 26-year-old business which had grown organically and in the last number of years had grown quite significantly. So that in itself brings a huge amount of challenge. Some of our values that I suppose we have to keep close to us as we go through that change, and you know, I'm reminded of them regularly. So leadership, one-stop shop, so we are a multi-species business, and that differentiates us from a lot of our competitors. Customer service, we hold that very, very dear to us, and our CEO, he's a sales guy at heart, customer number 1, and he talks about them in every single conversation he has. He speaks about the customer. So what are we doing for our customer? And this, you know, everyone in the company must support the customer or support somebody who does. That's up in many different areas across the business. Nectar is our world-class NPD stage gate process, and Food Plus is our enhanced food safety and quality system. And I know there are a number of speakers later on in the day speaking about sustainability. We were one of the founding members of Origin Green, which is a national sustainability platform in Ireland. So it's you know, we're moving into something like the Carbon Trust here in the UK as well. We see sustainability as something key for us moving forward. We have a multifunctional team involved in that. So just skilled and talented people. We spoke about engagement, or the previous speaker spoke about engagement. That's been absolutely critical on our journey over the last few years. And I think we've upped our game significantly. We've up to 40 members at different levels in the business in 3rd level education at the moment, which is, you know, that's a completely different space than where we would have been, you know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. and trust. And the next slide, when you see some of our customers, we build long-standing relationships. We don't like to come in, do business and come out again. We like to spend a bit of time with our customers, build a relationship and give some real value add to them. So again, this is all, I suppose, a backdrop to some of the values that we have to constantly work to. And it's very important when you go through a change process that all of this is at the forefront. So some of the brands that we supply across the UK, Ireland, the UK and into Europe, the numbers in the top right hand corner are the number of years we've been dealing with some of you guys in the room, I guess. So there's some pretty substantial relationships built there. So into the important stuff for me, lean. Why we did it. We went through a pre-lean cost reduction project type scenario, efficiency, all that sort of stuff. As head of finance, I was responsible for driving it. It was very project-based, it ran out of steam, but it was really to set the tone for people to, I suppose, get them thinking about how they can change their functions. But it was never going to be sustainable without something underpinning it. And what we decided on was to use lean methodology. We engaged with Enterprise Ireland in the UK and we began our lean transformation program with them, which was of huge benefit to us. At that stage, kind of mid-2011, we created a dedicated team in the business, and no different than Greg's, we actually took some of the key people from functions to help drive this. So the planner, for instance, we had one planner planning the 2 plants in Ireland. We took that person out of the role and they became an integral part of that transformation team. It took a lot of conversations and a lot of pain to try and do that, but eventually I won. So that's just a kind of a time map that brings us up to date. I'm going to take you briefly through each one of those stages and I suppose put a bit of emphasis on data and key data and how we use it to help us along our journey. The first phase, we did a big picture map. So those of you that have talked about those complex maps, this was really to get some clarity on some processes. And in reality, it was to drive out some of the inefficiencies and some of the issues that were under the surface in the business and hadn't really been exposed. And they're the type of thing that you need to, I suppose, really get to help people start their journey on change. It was a project-based approach. It was a little bit scattergun. It was fine. It worked. It got some of the tools rolled out, and it was okay. Would I change it? I would definitely change some of it, but it was a reasonable way of starting the process. What was missing was a vision as to where we wanted to get to. And also, I think, we weren't fundamentally changing the culture with this. We were getting some nice quick wins. We were getting some financial gains. We were getting some efficiency gains. I suppose we were justifying the fees for consultants, and everyone was happy. But fundamentally, the culture wasn't changing at the rate that I was expecting it to change at, and I would have liked it to change at. So that brought us to phase 2, which was really, in the journey, we didn't notice it at the time. It was kind of in retrospect, looking back at it. We had a business need. So there's one particular area in the business that was underperforming. And what we were asked to do was go in as a team, assess it, and try and come back with some proposals as to how we might change it. A different approach than what we've been doing already. So what we actually did, following a kind of initial assessment, I put 2 of my team and myself went into that role, into that area in the business pretty much full time. And this is where the bit about data became very important for us. There was data everywhere. This was a manufacturing facility. There was everything from yields to throughputs to labour to variances to plans, everything. Debt by numbers. And that's from an accountant, and I think a saved accountant. So apologies to anyone who's still in the finance function. But it was everywhere. And the reality was people weren't making good decisions with that data. And that was something that became evident to me. Meetings were being held, data was being spoken about, decisions were kind of being made but not really being made, and in reality we weren't really getting out of any of the issues that were occurring or reoccurring on a regular basis. So what we did is, as a team, we stripped back everything from that area, all data. It was all still being gathered in the background, but from a daily management, we focused on one thing, and that was plan attainment. Everything else was happening in the background, but plan attainment was the #1 KPI that we spoke about first in every meeting. That created a huge sense of stability, but it took a period of time. It was a huge mindset change for people as well to stop talking about yields. I left the accountants talk about yields and throughputs once a week in a meeting, but on a daily basis, it was all about plan attainment. If you get your plan, most of the other stuff will fall into place. So our key in that area was to get some stability. So how we did it, on top of stripping that out, we actually created some short interval control in the manufacturing facility. So again, we didn't use any fancy systems or anything like that. We actually came along and we just visual management. And for us, and for me in particular, this is critical in any transformational process. The use of visual management, getting key data, key information across to people, and actually involving them in it. These boards were handwritten on a daily basis. So your plan, your actual, and your variance, and then your reason. So we wanted to know why there were reasons. So this data was very personal to these people because they were being measured on plan attainment, so it actually involved them in it. The process around reviewing it, we actually sucked the team members in, probably for the first time ever, and allowed them to engage with us. We didn't force any increase in throughputs, we didn't change any particular processes, we just engaged with people and engaged with them with key data. This was an absolute game changer for the business. It sounds quite simple and it looks reasonably straightforward, but when you've gone from one extreme to the other, it's only afterwards you realise how big of a gap there was. So from a functional point of view, we have shift changeover meetings. Key data is spoken about the previous shift. It's transferred on to the next shift manager. And then on a daily basis at 9:30, we have in our operations room, we have a cross-functional management meeting. That always happened, by the way, but the same thing. We weren't really getting to root causes, and we weren't getting to resolve any reoccurring issues. So this is a fantastic room that we created inside in Plant 1. It's white wall paint. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. It's magnetic. Super. I don't do sit-down meetings. I took tables and chairs out of it. We had one chair in it for anyone who needed it. The whole idea was to bring people close to the data and get them in around it, because I don't know, if you have a stand-up meeting, what people do is they go to the back and they lean against the wall and they disengage and they remove themselves from the conversation. If you have tables and chairs, you've already created a barrier before you start. So if you bring people in and personalise it a little bit, again, it helped break down some of the barriers. It helped us to engage people, and it helped us to use that data better. So on one side of the room, we've key daily data. So that's just the plan attainment, it's health and safety, it's all our key measures that the guys come in and speak about. We have issues and opportunities board, where anything that needs to get escalated that can't get resolved at team member level or down actually gets escalated up and is discussed at that level. That took a lot of time to evolve. A lot of stuff was coming up that really could have been resolved at a lower level, but in reality, people got used to dealing with it and we were able to push it back down. And something that kind of evolved into stage 3, which is around strategy deployment. This daily information is linked into our strategic information, which is more of a weekly or a monthly measure. I'll come back to that in a minute. But again, this is all in the same room. The wall that you can't see on the right-hand side, which is the end wall, is where we use. It's a platform for, or a template for problem solving. So again, it's an open room. Anyone can go into it. We bring our customers into it. Anyone at all that goes through the business goes in there. Phase 3 that I just mentioned a second ago, this was to try and underpin some of the good work we'd done in that one particular area. And this is the whole idea of strategy and alignment. And I know you guys are coming from big companies, you have a lot of work done probably on strategy, but really what we wanted to do was to try and get to meaningful information for departments. We'd spoken about strategy in the past, but we really hadn't made it meaningful for everybody. And we're still not there yet. We're still trying to cascade that down in a manner that means something to someone on a daily basis. So this model is something that I've shown to loads of people. So what we did for the first couple of years was really at the top. Tools and techniques and processes. It's the good stuff, it's the easy stuff, it's the measurable stuff. People can see quick wins in it. But it's not sustainable. Anything you get, any gains you get up there will not sustain unless you do something with the underlying culture. And that's what we've really been concentrating on for the last year or two. So it's to make something meaningful of our strategy, try and get some alignment back up to our business strategy, leadership and commitment and behaviour and engagement. That comes with people development, and it comes with our engagement with people. So this is the area that we are now, as I said, we are now concentrating on, but we're still continuing with the bit at the top. This bit at the top is what came at the start. And as I mentioned, that's where the euro signs or the pound signs come. You have to continue to do some of that, but you have to really start to focus on this as early as possible in the process. So we went back and redesigned our business excellence model. Again, it kind of sits back with the values that I showed you earlier on. So a leader in food safety and quality, competitiveness, accountants have to get the bit in there as well, keep the customer front and centre, and innovation in products, process and service. This was our model to roll it out, so to try and help managers explain to their teams what they were trying to do. We're trying to align the strategy. Very simple stuff again. Agree the strategy. This is an annual process. Create and cascade meaningful goals. Training the appropriate tools and techniques is where I come in. Identify the gaps. Update and use the appropriate tools. Measure the improvement. Identify the next gap. And what you should start to get is continuous improvement and sustained continuous improvement, because nobody sits still. Again, it looks simple, but it doesn't happen in reality. Very, very seldom, and very difficult to do. So I suppose what that means, the strategy deployment bit, I'm sure most of you are familiar with that, but it's quite difficult to get it to work. One of the areas, or one of the things we've done here is not only in operations, we actually have all our support functions now have visual KPI boards with key data. I've absolutely restricted it to 1 or 2, 3 max KPIs, no more than that. Stripping back the data, and that's one of the key messages that I want to try and get across here today. Overloading with data will get you nowhere. You need to strip it back to something that's meaningful. And I've said to everyone in the department, start off with 2 or 3. If you need to change them, we'll change them. But those KPIs and that data should be relevant to what you're trying to achieve and what your priority is. We've made them visual in each area. Every manager and their team have presented to the leadership team. And in the areas that have really got it, the managers have actually stepped back and let their team members present that to our leadership team, which has been fantastic. And our CEO has gotten a great sense of what's happening inside of each of those departments. He's been sucked back right in for that hour presentation, and we've got some fantastic engagement. Those teams go away from that and they're energized and they get a boost. So we have to try and maintain that, and that's one of the challenges that I have, to try and get the teams back in on a regular basis just to update them. So they're the regular updates. So what's next? True lean. So true lean for me is way out into the future. We have a lot of work still to do. We're somewhere, well, you can see from the date range roughly where we are. We're doing a lot of work with developing our managers and succession planning, their number 2s, something that has never been done before. We have a large number of people, as I said, in education. We're starting things like Gemba Walks, where we're trying to get our managers down into areas in the business that they wouldn't have been in before, to try and get some engagement and some conversations going with people that they wouldn't normally speak to. We all assume that managers are comfortable walking into other departments. An awful lot just don't do it, and then they're not comfortable doing that. So we're trying to force that a little bit, just to see where we get to. And it is really a journey. It's going to continue for a good number of years, but I think we've made significant progress. It's a very quick snapshot of it. I hope it's been some way helpful. It feels like I've raced through that in a couple of minutes, not in 20 minutes or 25 minutes. Key messages for me: strip the data back to something that's meaningful for people in each area. If you have too much data, you just die in it. So that's it. That's me. Thank you very much.